Hello everyone! This hour on Verbling, the next in my great short stories series, we're going to be doing a brand new short story, The School by Donald Barthelme. And I'd like to hear your opinion about our Secret Life of Walter Mitty from last week as well. We can talk a bit about that in the beginning. Let me get my name on the screen and say hello to all of you, and we will get started. Give me just a second here. And there we go. What's happening out there?
Yes.
I'm hearing crazy noises in the background.
Oh, sorry. I was just fetching my papers.
No, but I was hearing some.
If we were talking about, if we should talk about Walter Mitty, because I actually worked on him this morning. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can definitely talk about it.
At 11 o'clock that you had another story.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to do a new one every week, but we can definitely talk about the last one. We didn't have a chance to talk.
Yes, I also read the new story, The School.
Already?
Yes.
Oh, we're going to read that one together.
Yes.
but it's short, actually. We can read it together and talk about it. By the way, Cornell, how are you? I see you floating around out there.
Hi, John Eric. I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Excellent, very good. Now, we should have a lot more people joining us, so hopefully they'll be coming in because the class was sold out. Ah, there's someone. There's Julia. Excellent, very good. So, I'll tell you what. Why don't we start? I do want to start the new story, and it's short enough that we can probably read it and talk about it in the same class without any problem. But I want to get your opinion about Walter Mitty, if you read it. And so, Cornell, I think you were reading it with us last week as well. Am I right? Remember the previous one, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? Well, you were here last week, weren't you, Cornell?
Sorry?
You were here last week in the class, weren't you?
Yes. Yes, you are right. Yeah.
So,
as far as I know, yes.
do you remember The Secret Life of Walter Mitty that we read together?
Oh no, I have no any good memory, so I don't remember the story. Yeah, it was an interesting story, but I have no details of it.
It was interesting, but I can't remember it.
Interesting and crazy.
It was a crazy story. Let me just say hello to Mr. Jose and Julia. Welcome to class. People, hello.
Hello, John.
So, Jose.
Yes.
Were you in the class last week or the week before? I can't remember if you were with us.
No, the last week I didn't have a class.
And the week before, in the short stories class, were you here? Because we read Walter Mitty, the previous story. We read it with one group. And then last week we had a different group, so we actually read it twice. So you weren't here for either. So Jose and Julia, we're gonna have a little talk in the beginning about the previous story. Okay, for the first 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to start something very, very different. Okay, very different story. So Cornell, we will refresh your memory. Okay, we will refresh your memory. Let's go to Mr. Jorgen, who just worked on it this morning. Mr. Jorgen.
Yes.
What did you think about The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? What was your impression of the story?
Well, I answered the questions at the end, but the overall
can't hear you. We're losing you. Oh, we got a problem with the connection. Is everyone hearing Jorgen okay? Or are you hearing us? Oh, I'm hearing a strange noise. Yeah.
No,
maybe it's my connection.
No,
I don't hear him okay.
Okay, maybe it's both of us. Go ahead, Jorgen. Sorry, go ahead.
Walter Mitty is a very self-absorbed person who likes to live in imagination, in the fantasy world. He doesn't connect with his life, and he thinks other people are rude and do not understand him. He likes to think about himself in terms of someone who solves problems, like he's a commander in an airplane, and he's a hero in another story. And the story actually ends with him standing in front of a firing squad.
That's right.
The story actually portrayed a man who is not very happy, I find. If I may, I just go through the answers to the questions.
Sure. Go ahead.
I think the first question was about, do you have the questions, John?
I don't have the document open. It's going to take me a minute.
The first question was about, the story was written in the beginning of Second World War. And the question was, does this show in the story somewhere? And yes, it does. In the first paragraph, it is a military fantasy, actually. The setting is on an airplane, and words like uniform, commander, navy is and guns is there. The word navy is repeated in paragraph number 9. Also shots, killing, and heavy automatic. These are the contents in his fantasies, where he sees himself in another place doing all kinds of things while he's actually driving in the car with his wife at the side. They are going to a shop where he has to buy some things like boots and other things. But he keeps on imagining things like he's slipping in and out of conscience almost and dreaming. In paragraph 12, there's also words that is referring to the war. He used words like cannonading, that means bombardment. Words like sergeant, bomber, ammunition, and the word war itself is also mentioned in paragraph 12. And he also mentioned something called a bigger machine gun. That was a powerful machine gun that was used both in the First and Second World War, also on board ships, like a anti-aircraft gun. So he mentions that specifically. And then in paragraph 14, which is the last, he sees himself standing in front of a firing squad, which is also relating to war. I think the next question was what I think about the story. Is it a funny story or is it a sad story? I think the question was, and then I wrote that, well, just reading about it casually, it tends to be mostly fun.
I hope so.
It is perhaps sad, since he does not seem happy at all, and he feels intimidated by both his wife and others. He needs to fantasize and compensate for his low self-worth or self-esteem. And the last 3 lines in the story describes a man that is not happy at all. He's proud. He's described as motionless, undefeated. He sees himself as a victim.
He sees himself as a hero, don't you think? At the very end, he's always a hero in his mind in some way.
But also as a victim, because he feels that everybody is against him. So, but it's true that he's both a victim. He's standing in front of the firing squad, receiving his penalty, but also he feels that is unjust. And now, if I may continue, I just move quickly. There was another question. What other kind of literary hero does he remind of? If I could find one. Well, I couldn't find some from a book because I haven't read many books, but he reminded me a bit of a character from a movie called As Good As It Gets from 1997, where we see Jack Nicholson in the role portraying a person, an author named Melvin Udall.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anyone saw that, but Melvin Udall is somewhat also self-absorbed and lashes out at people quite. He's carrying a grudge towards everybody and angry and negative. Also very proud. He was the only person I could.
And what's the comparison? Is he similar to Walter Mitty or vice versa?
Walter Mitty, of course, he's living in a fantasy world intermittent, while Melvin Udall is not. But Melvin Udall is almost like what do you say, asocial or antisocial in
Antisocial. Yeah.
in somewhat the same. But of course, the story with Melvin Udall is that he changes and the short story with Walter Mitty, of course, is that he didn't change his. It just seemed to get even worse. He's standing in front of a fire squad now. Everything is absolutely horrible, and it's
Exactly.
the matter of life and death. While Melvin Udall, he finds life in the context of a romance with the woman that he didn't really was able to relate to, but they find each other. It's a wonderful movie. But in the beginning, Melvin Udall is very, antisocial.
Just out of curiosity, one thing to think, well, two things in particular to think about with Walter Mitty. One, the references to the war. Where do you think Walter Mitty, the character, and Cornell, if now you remember the story a little bit better, you can answer as well. Where do you think Walter Mitty got these memories or these ideas about the war? Where did he experience the war? Because if you I have my theory, okay, we'll see if we agree, but I think that's one of the keys to his character. Are these realistic war situations that he imagines? Are they realistic or are they unrealistic to you?
No, I would say that Walter Mitty, as an average American, perhaps saw movies, news flashes about the war that was portrayed in 1939.
Exactly.
And also, there was a lot of movies, and perhaps also this gun he names Wicker machine gun. He tends to remember.
Exactly.
So, I don't know if he was a soldier himself, but perhaps
do you
not.
Think he was? Do you think he was?
No, I don't know. Perhaps not.
I don't think so either.
Excuse me. He doesn't seem like a personality type that would fit into to being a soldier, where he's told what to do with discipline and all that. He seems like an anarchistic
coward
personality type.
and he's a bit of a coward, isn't he? He's not going to be out there. He's not going to be out there on the front line, taking down,
No.
German fighters in the skies, shooting them out of the skies, right? He's not like that. So I think it's really important that his experience of the war is all through movies. And so when he starts to imagine things, it's like he's playing a movie. And at first, it's a movie that he sees, and then by the second fantasy, it's a movie that he's starring in. And it's always the same movie, right?
Yes.
Every situation's impossible. He's being punished in some way, either by nature or by society. He's at the firing squad. He's going through the hurricane. But in spite of this danger and this impossible situation, he triumphs. He's indifferent. He flicks away a cigarette, and he's defiant. He takes off the blindfold, flicks away the cigarette, and he's defiant to the last. So what does that say about him in real life? That fantasy that keeps repeating over and over again. What do you think it says about him?
It says something about how a person can survive in the world while imagining things and like having an extension for his personality, what he is satisfied with by having things are not real. It was also a question if I thought that the story would be useful for analyzing, or if one should only regard it as a funny story. And
right.
Then I think that just reading it casually first, I think many just think it's a funny story, but thinking about it, it's actually a very sad story, I find.
It's got a lot more to it when you start to think about it, doesn't it?
Yes, he almost seems to more or less like having a personality disorder, perhaps narcissistic in a way.
Perhaps.
But he doesn't seem. Now there was another question about does he relate to the character in the other story, The Catcher in the Rye. Now I didn't have a chance to read that.
Yeah, that's true, because
just skimmed the book today. But
when
The Catcher in the Rye, he shows a lot of self-insight. I think that is the difference between the two characters. Walter Mitty doesn't show any self-insight or self-awareness.
He's just escaping, more or less.
He's projecting everything outwards. And there was also another thing I noticed, that in The Catcher in the Rye there is a first-person narration, and in Walter Mitty there is the third-person narration. Because because in The Catcher in the Rye we have a person that is describing some events that he has gone through, almost in like a diary way.
Right.
Like he's making a diary, and he also uses these coarse language. But in Walter Mitty he's described with outside, with a third narration, and also yes, a third person narration. And
if you were going to describe, if you're going to think about all the descriptions of heroes that you've read about, Greek tragedies, Ulysses, it's always he did this, he did that. If the story was in the first person, we wouldn't see him like we're watching a movie, like we're watching one of those exaggerated World War II movies, those romantic movies, especially at that time. And I'll just say one more thing, okay? And Jorgen, if you like, you can send me your answers, and I can read them and give you some comments, okay?
Yes.
But one more thing I'll just point out. I think I agree with you, Jorgen. When you think about it, there's a lot more to the story than it first appears. It seems like a funny story, but there's a lot more to it. And here's one thing I want you to think about. What traits are presented in the story? Don't answer it now, but think about it. What traits are presented in the story as being typical male qualities? And what is the ideal man that we pick up through reading the story? I think that the story, what the writer, James Thorburn, is doing, besides writing a funny story, is exposing all of our stereotypes and trying to show something about how we look at gender roles. Like he's a hero, but he's a masculine hero. And it's not just about masculinity. It's about reality itself. And it's about marriage. Think about how the wife is portrayed. They don't seem like a happy couple. So we're going to start with a new story, but I'll be happy to comment on your answers to the questions. You can send me a link to your document in the chat window, not the chat window, but the message window. I'll be happy to read it and give you some comments, okay? Yes. And we're going to do something similar with today's story, and we're probably going to have time to talk about it even in the class. I tried to time it so that we could. Let me put the link for you in the chat window, and let me share the document on the screen. Give me just a second. If you don't have it open, then I'm going to suggest you click on this link in the chat window. And this is a very different kind of story. I want you to think about, when you read the story, I want you to think about what a story is. What does a story consist of? And then you'll start to understand that this author is making us question not only the topics and themes, but the idea of a story itself. I think that's one thing we'll all agree on as we start to read it. So this is The School by Donald Barthelme. I'm not going to say anything, but I may ask you a few questions. I'm not going to say anything to introduce it, but I may ask you a few questions as we go along to get you to think about some of the things we're reading. It's quite short, okay? So let's see if we can get through the reading today, and I'll ask you a few questions as we go along, okay? So, let's see. Yulia,
Mm-hmm.
why don't you start us off? We're just gonna go around, everyone taking a paragraph, and I'll ask you a few questions to get you thinking as we go along, okay?
Okay.
So start us off. The School by Donald Barthelme.
Mm-hmm. In aloud.
Yeah, we're gonna read it together.
Okay. Well, we had all these children out planting trees. See, because we figured that was part of the education, to see how you know the root systems, and also the sense of responsibility, taking care of things, being individually responsible. You know what I mean. And the trees all died. They were orange trees. I don't know why they died. They just died. Something wrong with the soil, possibly, or maybe the stuff we got from the nursery wasn't the best. We complained about it. So we've got 30 kids there. Each kid has his or her own little tree to plant, and we've got these 30 dead trees. All these kids looking at these little brown sticks. It was depressing.
Wow. So, is this a first person, third person? What kind of narration is this? Do you know what we call this kind of narration? Is it
The third person?
third person? Well, third person would be he did this, she did that.
Mm-hmm.
It would be us describing something that is not me, not you, but someone else. But it says we. It says we.
Yes.
So, it's not third person. It's actually first person, but first person plural. And who do you think is talking? Based on the title and based on the first paragraph. Who do you think is saying these words? Or what kind of person?
It may be the head of the school or one of these teachers, or it can be the author who was in the past the teacher, James such how to tell. So I think this is a head of the school or one of the teachers.
Head of the school or one of the teachers. Okay.
Yes, maybe.
Okay.
It may be. Or it's the author who was in the past as teacher or as the head of this school, such school.
Okay.
And he told us his story like tomorrow, but in the past.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Could be. And one last question. And what's he describing? This thing about the trees. What do you think that was? Since it appears to be a school, and it appears to be a teacher. What kind of what's the word? What kind of now I can't think of the word I'm looking for. What kind of a situation was he describing with the kids? What was maybe the purpose of that thing, you think, that they were doing?
Yes, I think he described the situation that about the responsibility of these kids, and they didn't do it quite well, and as a result...
Are you sure? Because look, he says there were orange trees. I don't know why they died. They just died. So was it the kids' fault?
I don't know. I think no. Like 30 dead trees, it's too much.
Exactly.
Yes. So I think we need to read more, and then we will find an answer.
So let's do that.
Yes.
Cornell, take it away. Paragraph 2. Cornell is sleeping.
Not
there he is.
I am here. I am thinking of the story, and the first question is that what is the climate? Because we are talking about orange trees. Yeah. So, and what is the country? So in my opinion, it could be that climate and background are not the appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's got to
So
be some place where you can grow
it
orange trees.
yeah, it is my first idea for first paragraph. So
Okay. So why don't you read the second paragraph? And let me just say a quick hello to Alexander, who's joining us. Hello, Alexander. Nice to see you.
Hi again. Sorry for being
Oh,
late.
oh, Alexander, you missed a great class last class. Oh, you should have left. We had so much fun, Alexander. I was calling you, Alexander, Alexander. And you were
I'm so
gone.
regret that I did it, but there were
Oh.
some things I had to do.
Oh, we had so much fun. We learned recipes. You missed all the fun. Alexander, we're going to read a great short story called The School by Donald Barthelme. It's a very unusual story. It's short, and it'll make you question what a story is. That's my setup for the class. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me just say a quick hello to our friend with the Arabic script that I cannot read. I can't say your name because it's in Arabic. What's your name? Where it says start many? He is gone. Is he there?
My name is Omar.
Omar! Hello, Omar. How are you?
Hi. I'm fine, sir.
Excellent. Nice to see you. And where are you from, Omar?
I'm from Saudi Arabia.
From Saudi Arabia. Okay. Nice to have you. Okay, we just started our new story, so you've only missed one paragraph, the first one. So we're going to go around, read a paragraph each, and I'm going to ask you some questions to get you to think about the meaning of the story. And if there's any difficult vocabulary, just ask and we'll define the words as we go along. Okay? So, Cornell, you're our second reader. Can you take paragraph 2 for us?
yeah, of course. It wouldn't have been so bad except that just a couple of weeks before the thing with the trees, the snakes all died. But I think that the snakes, well, the reason that the snakes kicked off was that, you remember, the boiler was shut off for 4 days because of the strike, and that was explicable. It was something you could explain to the kids because of the strike. I mean, none of their parents would let them cross the picket line, and they know there was a strike going on and what it meant. So when things got started up again and we found the snakes, they weren't too disturbed.
What?
It is very, very interesting and crazy story. Snakes and trees.
Snakes and trees all dying.
Just all died. And that's all we know.
Okay, but this paragraph is a little different, isn't it? Because now we know the reason for this incident. What was the reason, Cornell, in paragraph 2? Just let's make it explicit. What was the reason that the snakes died? We got that line about
Kicked off. What does it mean that kicked off on the first second line?
Kicked off is slang. In this case, kicked off means died.
Die. Okay.
But it's slang. It's not like the nicest way to talk about that thing. We usually say it in a nicer way. They passed away. Here, kicked off is kind of like a little bit abrupt. So here we have a reason, and then I think that's important because we said it was something you could explain to the kids because of the strike. The parents, none of the parents would let them cross the picket line. What's that mean? Do you know what that is? The picket line?
No.
What is a strike?
Strike. Attack.
Not in this case. It's not an attack here. Remember, this is a school. Schools have teachers. Teachers have unions. And what happens if you're not
strike,
happy
yeah,
with
okay.
that kind of strike?
Yeah, strike. It means they spent their time without job.
Exactly.
Work, yeah.
They refuse to work because they're not happy with the conditions. And none of the parents of the kids would let them cross the picket line. The picket line is the line where people are holding signs, the line where they're demonstrating. And if you cross the picket line, that means that you are going to work, or in this case, the kids are going to school. So they could explain why the snakes died, because no one could go into the building because of the strike. Could they explain why the orange trees died, class? Could they explain, the teachers explain why the orange trees died to the children? Yes or no?
No.
No, they couldn't.
No.
That seems kind of significant. Let's find out why. Keep that in mind. Mr. Jose, let's find out what happens after the snakes.
I have to read the next paragraph, no?
You don't have to, but I'd like you to.
Yes. With the herb gardens, it was probably a case of overwatering, and at least now they know not to overwater. The children were very conscientious with the herb gardens, and some of them probably, slipped then a little extra water when we weren't looking. Or maybe, well, I don't like to think about sabotage, although it did occur to us. I mean, it was something that crossed our minds. We were thinking that way probably because before that the gerbils had died and
Gerbils?
the gerbils had died and the white mice had died and the salamander, well, no, they know not to carry them around in plastic bags.
Oh! So, Mr. Jose.
Yes, so some people put the snakes in
Snakes? No, not snakes.
Oh, sorry, the
First of all, what's a gerbil? Do you know what a gerbil is?
no,
See if I can get a picture on screen for you.
okay.
Now they know not to carry gerbils around in plastic bags.
Yes. Gerbil. Okay. Some
Here
people
we go.
put the gerbils into the plastic bags.
So do you see a pattern happening here? We're in the 1, 2, 3. We're in the third paragraph. Do you see a certain pattern in this story, Jose? What keeps happening again and again?
Only bad things.
Only bad things.
Yeah.
Okay. In the first case, we didn't know why the orange trees died. In the second
The
case,
fish died. The snake died too.
but we know why.
No,
Because of the
we don't
strike.
know why. In the third paragraph, we know why the genders died. The gerbils died.
Who killed the gerbils?
Who? The children? No. I think that the children no. No.
Yeah, the children.
The
So something bad happens in each paragraph, but in the third paragraph, it's the children's fault. Did they do it on purpose? Was it done deliberately? Or was it done by accident?
I think it was delivery.
Why? I don't know if I agree with you, but the narrator is not sure, and the narrator mentions this word.
Sabotage.
Sabotage.
Possibly was a sabotage. A sabotage.
At least he or she is wondering if there's some sabotage. This was about the herb garden.
Who made the sabotage?
Who knows?
I don't know, no?
We don't know. We don't know.
I don't know.
And the author, the narrator, is just guessing. But when it comes to the gerbils, we know that there was the children, and he has the line, well, now they know not to carry them around in plastic bags. You know,
Yes.
children have to learn these things.
No.
So, let's keep going and find out what happens after the gerbils. So Alexander, oh no, I'm sorry, Jorgen and then Alexander. Jorgen, you're up. Let's find out what happens next.
Yes. Of course, we expected the fish to die, but that was no surprise. Those numbers, you look at them crooked and they are belly up on the surface. But the lesson plan called for a tropical fish input at that point. There was nothing we could do. It happens every year. You just have to hurry past it. We weren't even supposed to have a puppy.
Oh no, a puppy!
So, yes.
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen with the puppy, Jorgen?
Well, things can only be, continue the way it has been. It probably will die too.
What kind of school is this, Jorgen?
Well, I think it's a symbolic school. I don't think the pupils are real children. I think it's a school of life, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Children are actually a symbol of us all.
Wow, interesting. And what do you think the puppy is a symbol of?
The puppy is something that you get to not make you feel so lonely, to cuddle and to pet and to take care of. That's perhaps could be what amounts to a child for a grown-up. Like adults, they get children to make them feel less lonely, perhaps, and to almost like a pet.
Yeah.
The puppy could be perhaps a symbol of a child.
Well, let's find out a little bit more about the puppy. We weren't even supposed to have a puppy. Okay? So let me see how many paragraphs we have. Okay, we're doing fine. Okay, so go ahead, Jorgen. Why don't you continue with the puppy?
Yes, we weren't even supposed to have one. It was just a puppy the murdered girl found on a Gristides.
Gristides is the name of yeah.
And she was afraid the truck would run over it when the driver had finished making his delivery, so she stuck it in her knapsack and brought it to the school with her. So we had this puppy. As soon as I saw the puppy, I thought, oh Christ, I bet it will live for about 2 weeks and that's what it did. It wasn't supposed to be in the classroom at all. There's some kind of regulation about it, but you can't tell them they can't have a puppy when the puppy is already there, right in front of them, running around on the floor and yapping. They named it Edgar, that is, they named it after me. They had a lot of fun running after it and yelling, "Here Edgar, nice Edgar." And they laughed like hell. They enjoyed the ambiguity. I enjoyed it myself. I don't mind being kidded. They made a little house for it in the supply closet and all that. I don't know what it died of. Distemper, I guess. It probably hadn't any shots. I got it out of there before the kids got to school. I checked the supply closet each morning, routinely, because I knew what was going to happen. I gave it to the custodian.
Custodian. What is a custodian? Do you know what that is?
Like a janitor, perhaps?
Yeah, it's a janitor. So he gave it to the custodian. And this is kind of important. One thing is kind of important here. They made a house for it. So where was the puppy's house? It's a kind of important detail.
In the supply closet.
In the supply closet. Keep that in mind for later. It died of distemper. That's strange. I wonder what that means. Distemper. It's not a word you hear every day. So we have to make a guess.
Perhaps it's bored.
A viral disease.
A disease?
Yeah, viral disease.
Yeah, okay. So we've got boredom. We've got a disease, maybe. A viral disease. Got you. Now I understand what you're saying. I thought
Yes.
you said
Viral disease.
Viral. Okay, viral. Yeah. And distemper is a funny word because it has the idea of temper, which is mood. So it could be a disease, or it could be a little bit more. Maybe it's symbolic, as Jorgen said. Maybe it was in a bad mood. Maybe it was bored. Maybe there was something else going on. It's an unusual word to use. Anyway, it hadn't had its shots, and before I got to school, it died. I gave it to the custodian. Let's see where this story is going. Yulia, we are back to you after the puppy.
Okay. And then there was this Korean
Orphan.
Often that the class adopted, though they helped the children program. All the kids brought it in a quarter a month. That was the idea. It was an unfortunate thing. The kid's name was Kim, and maybe we adopted him too late or something. The cause of death was not stated in the letter we got. They suggested we adopt another child instead and send us some interesting case histories, but we didn't have the heart. The class took it pretty hard. They began. I think nobody ever said anything to me directly, to feel that maybe there was something wrong with the school. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the school particularly. I've seen better and I've seen worse. It was just a run of bad luck. We had an extraordinary number of parents passing away, for instance. There were, I think, 2 heart attacks and 2 suicides, 1 drowning and 4 killed together in a car accident, 1 stroke, and we had the usual heavy mortality rate among the grandparents, or maybe it was heavier this year, it seems so. And finally the tragedy.
Finally the tragedy. An orphan, Yulia. Not an orphan.
Oh, wow. How?
Orphan.
Orphan.
An orphan. A child without parents is an orphan.
Orphan.
There's a pattern here. We started off with orange trees, and what are we left with in this paragraph? We started off with...
There wasn't anything wrong in the school, no?
Kind of seems like this is there's something wrong with the school. It kind of seems like it. And we start off with orange trees. If orange trees die. Okay, it's not good, but it's not the end of the world. And then we go to snakes and gerbils, and now it's orphans, and then it's the parents. Oh my God! Would you like to go to this school, Yulia?
Of course not. It's some mystery school. It's a horror film.
It is.
Good plot for horror film.
And maybe not just a horror film. Let's find out about the tragedy. Give me a second. Just want to take a quick look. Okay, fine. I think we can get the whole story read before the end of class. Okay. So let's find out about the tragedy. Right? There was a heavy mortality rate among the grandparents, or maybe it was heavier this year. It seems so. And finally, the tragedy. Mr. Cornell.
Yes.
The tragedy.
The tragedy occurred when Matthew, Wayne, and Tony Mavrogordo were praying over they are excavating for the new federal office building. There were all these big wooden beams stacked, at the edge of the excavation. There is a court case coming out of that. Parents are claiming that the beams were poorly stacked. I don't know what's true and what's not. It's been a strange year. I forgot to mention Billy Bransfeder, who was knifed fatally when he grabbed with a masked intruder in his home.
So now we've moved on from orphans to the kids in the school. What was the tragedy? Matthew Wine and Tony Mavrogordo? What happened to them? Is it clear?
No.
They were playing over where they're excavating for a new office building.
What does it mean, excavating?
Excavating. Digging a hole to build the foundation, digging the hole for the foundation of the building. So Matthew and Tony, little Matty and little Tony were playing in the new construction site for the office building. And what happened? There were all these big wooden beams stacked. So what do you think happened to little Matty and little Tony? Cornell.
I don't know. It is. I have found very or too many unknown words in the text. So
Well, let's be clear. Beams are big, long girders made of wood. Beams are usually made of wood. Oh, it says wooden beams. Sorry. Beams are made of wood, and they hold the structure of a building or of a room. They hold the structure. They create the frame. So the beams were stacked up, and there's a court case. That means that someone is suing someone else. There's a court case claiming the beams were poorly stacked. And stacked, do you know what that means? If I stack up things, what's another way to say stacked? Is that clear?
no.
Class? If I'm stacking the beams, what am I doing to them? Putting them how? Clear? Not clear?
Put it
Putting
into
them
the...
on top of each other like stacking coins.
Yeah, like stacking coins, putting them one on top of each other. Exactly. So we have to guess. It doesn't say it specifically, but we can guess what happened to Tony and Matty. The beams were not well stacked, and they fell on top of Matty and Tony, and they smushed them.
Oh my god.
So we've gone from gerbils we've gone from orange trees to gerbils to orphans to the kids in the class. Oh, and I forgot to mention Billy Brand's father, who was knifed fatally. What happened to him? If he was knifed fatally,
Died?
he was murdered.
He was murdered, yes.
Now it's not an accident anymore. Now it's deliberate. He was murdered. He grappled with a masked intruder. Grappled. Grappled means got into a fight.
To fight it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right, Yulia. Got into a fight. Okay. Mr. Julio. Mr. Julio? Not Julio. Mr. Jose. I don't know why I changed your name. Mr. Jose. Take it from here. See where we are, Jose? Jose! Jose! Are you sleeping, Jose? He's sleeping. Mr. Jorgen, let's find out what happens after Billy Brand.
Yes. One day we had a discussion in class. They asked me where they go. But did they go? The tree
Oh, we can't hear you. Sorry, Jorgen. We can't hear you. Your voice is really, really bad.
Can you hear me?
No. We got this weird noise in the background.
Oh.
Jorgen, do you think you could... Can you leave and re-enter really quickly? Because I think maybe it's a connection problem, okay?
Yes.
All right. We'll wait for you. Just a second. So while we're waiting for Jorgen, Julio, are you back? Oh, Julio. I keep calling you Julio. Jose, are you back?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to give Jorgen just a second to return. So we've gone from accidental deaths of nothing important to animal deaths, which were accidents, to deliberate deaths, to murder. And let's find out what happens next. Jorgen, let's try now.
Yes, I just have to, I can't see the screen, but I have my own. Where did we come to?
So we are on, I don't know the page number.
One day we had a discussion in class.
Yeah, that's it.
They asked me where they go, the trees, the salamander, the tropical fish, Edgar, the papas and mamas, Matthew and Tony, where did they go? And I said, I don't know. And they said, who knows? And I said, nobody knows. And they said, is death what? Is death that which gives meaning to life? And I said, no, life is what gives meaning to life. Then they said, but isn't death considered as a fundamental datum, the means by which the taken for granted mundanity of the everyday may be transcended in the direction of? I said, yes, maybe. They said, we don't like it. I said, that's sound. They said, it's a bloody shame. I said, it is. They said, when you make love now with Helen, our teacher assistant, so that we can see how it is done. We know you like Helen. I do like Helen, but I said I would not. We've heard so much about it, they said, but we've never seen it. I said I would be fired, and it was never, almost never done as a demonstration. Helen looked out the window. I said, yes, maybe. They said, we don't, oh, sorry. They said, please make love to Helen, with Helen. We require an assertion of value. We are frightened. I said that they shouldn't be frightened, although I'm often frightened. And that there was value everywhere. Helen came and embraced me. I kissed her a few times on the brow. We held each other. The children were excited. And there was a knock on the door. I opened the door, and the new Goebbels walked in. The children cheered wildly.
And that is the story of the school. Wow. Wow. Hey, what kind of children are these that they're asking questions about the existential meaning of life and death out of curiosity? Do these sound like children that you know?
They sound like intellectuals, almost the intellectuals of the world, the elite of the world, perhaps. The teacher is teaching some that is very, thoughtful about life.
True. And yet earlier they were so inexperienced that they didn't know to put gerbil. They didn't know not to put the gerbils into plastic bags because they would run out of air. So these children are changing throughout the story. Interesting. What is the school that the title refers to? Jorgen, you've already alluded to this a little bit. And are there different lessons in this?
The school of life. It applies to us all, I believe.
The school of life.
It's a message to us all. The children are a symbol of us all.
Are the lessons in the story different than you might have expected when you first saw the title of the story?
Yes, I was a little shocked, They wanted to see him engaging the woman. And of course, then you realize these are not real children. But it's an interesting twist. I wonder what the symbolism is. They want an assertion of value by looking at these individuals engaging, and then he does not grant them their wish, but he does something similar. He takes her in his arm and kisses her. And that is apparently enough because something happens at the door. The new Goebbels walks in, and that's Sandra walks.
The new gerbil.
Gerbil. So the gerbil is a symbol also. It's not a real rat, So I think it's interesting what happens at the end there. It's like a solution to a problem.
It is like a solution to a problem. Let me ask. We've got a few minutes here. Let me ask what everyone else thinks too. What's your reaction to the ending of the story in particular? Yulia, what's your reaction? So the children want him to have sex with the assistant teacher. He says, no, this is not a demonstration. But they keep demanding it. So he kind of starts to kiss her, and at that exact moment, boom, the door opens. And a new gerbil walks in. What do you think the kids' reaction is when the new gerbil walks? Well, they're cheering. What do you think is going to happen next? What's their reaction?
The reaction was, I think, this fact amazed the children, but I think in future they do the same as like with previous one, because how this word I need to often houses are very cruel places, unfortunately, because all children in this, each children in this house fighting for their place in future in life. So for me, unfortunately, it was it was surprised me, but if thinking more about it, really we can find such situation in not in each, but we can meet a lot of such places in orphan houses, unfortunately, because children they're really cruelly than another one, because they are bringing not by their parents, and they try to fight with each other, fight for their future. So
So, when you say houses, though, what do you mean by houses? Do you mean
it's
institutions? Is that what you mean?
like schools for orphan children, where they are
Oh,
bringing
orphan. Okay.
orphan, yes, yes.
Well, let's be clear about one thing. The orphans were in one paragraph of the story. And
Yes.
here, right, we're probably not in an orphanage, because remember, they adopted an orphan. So they're probably regular kids in a regular school. Of course,
Yes.
there's something a little unusual, because they sound like intellectuals suddenly.
Mhm.
And orphanages, yeah.
Till now, I can match and can understand what school it was. It was usual school or for freaky kids. I don't know. It's some strange story, and till now I don't know what school it was exactly.
Well, I think the key is the ending of the story. If you can start to think about, why does the new gerbil walk in at that moment, and what's the effect? Okay, we know that they're cheering wildly, right?
Yes.
For me, by the way, I don't have the answers. I just have my own interpretation, right? We'll have to ask Donald and Barthelme the real reason. By the way, I've given you a little reading assignment of your own. So if you look, there's a discussion with things you can think about, and afterwards there's an extra essay by George Saunders. Now, it's not an easy essay to read. It's a little bit advanced, but it's about this story. It might be really interesting for all of you to read the essay and think about George Saunders' opinion, right?
Okay, yes.
And we can meet again in the next class and do like we did today. The first 15, 20 minutes, we'll get your reactions, okay? We can go through some of the questions. What I'm going to try to do is introduce a new story each week and have the discussion in the beginning of the next class, if that works for everyone, because I'm not really sure how to structure the class. I think it's important, though, that we do something cultural, and that language learning is not just doing grammar exercises or any exercises. It's also got to be about the culture of the language you're learning. So I think it's important we do this class. We need more than 4 people in the class, or we can't continue to run it, though. We need a little bit more. But we're going to try it as an experiment. I've done it for a couple of months, and we'll see if people are into it or not. So we'll try to do it like this. I'll introduce a story like I did today. I'll give you something to think about. We'll meet again the next week. We'll talk about it, and we'll see if we can come to some decision about what the story is trying to tell us and what it says about the culture, right? The culture that you're reading about. This is not a Russian story. It's not a Danish story. It's not a Spanish story. It's not a Hungarian story. So we have to see if you feel that you can relate to the message here, if your culture is different too. Something to think about. Okay, read the essay by George Saunders. Send me questions through the message window if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to help you out. And let's talk about this next Friday at 11 GMT. Deal?
Deal.
Have a nice weekend.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you
Nice
so
weekend.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Nice
Bye for now.
weekend. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.